Welcome to Everyday Lessons in the Bible. Today I was in Ezekiel Chapters 33 through 36. Now, this is all about after the fall of Jerusalem. And God is warning, if you do not listen, the blood is on your own hands. So in other words, if you're not listening to the warnings, your blood is on your hands. You could have saved your life. You could have listened and done what was said. If God tells someone to warn you and they don't, then that iniquity is on them. And so I think about pastors and preachers and teachers and prophetic people, people that have the gift of prophecy, or even not even just them. I've had the Lord tell me to give a word to somebody numerous times. And it's hard to give people the word of whatever it is that he's saying, because it's usually not, a good word. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's a correction that God has told me to tell people. And oh my gosh, it's so hard. But God is saying, if you don't do that, then their iniquity that's on you for not doing it. And so that really speaks to me. Whenever the Lord tells me to say something, I need to speak it, and that's happened quite often. So the main point here is to speak whatever God tells you to speak, whether it's a word to a specific person or to an audience. Ezekiel is the watchman to warn the people to turn from their wickedness. And that's what God is telling him to do, is to speak to the people and tell them so that their souls can be delivered from what is to come. And then it says, if you are a righteous person and you have righteous deeds that you do, but then you also have injustice, you're doing things that aren't right, they're not good, then even your good won't be remembered. God will wipe that out. And I don't know about you, but I don't want that. Our reward is in heaven. Our treasure is in heaven. The things that God has for us because of the life we live here, we are blessed and rewarded in heaven for those things. You don't want the evil that you do to wipe all of that out at the same time. Which, it's kind of hard to fathom, to be righteous and unjust at the same time. So if you turn from the sin, the wickedness in your life, all the things that you've done wrong, if you do right by them, it says you will live. We have to understand that it is God's way, not your way. But yet, we so often don't even think about it one way or the other. And I think if we could focus on, the things that we're doing, is that for the Lord or for ourselves? Or, what is the hidden meaning behind it? And each person is judged according to his ways. So these are just warnings that Ezekiel is basically giving to the people. We tend to think we deserve blessings from God, but we don't. We deserve death. We are all sinful creatures. We have all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. But in his grace and mercy, he has saved us. And, the people during that time, and even today, they were listening to the prophet who teaches, but they weren't obeying God. And some of the prophets that were teaching were false prophets. They weren't even speaking what God was saying. So it had to have been pretty confusing. I guess the more you knew of who God is and was, the more you would be able to distinguish between who was telling the truth and who was lying. But God sees them. He sees you. And so shepherds are God's leaders to lead the people. So to lead the sheep into all truth, to show them the way. But no one was doing this. And this is what Ezekiel is trying to tell them. No one's listening. No one's doing. The leaders are trying to lead the sheep, but they're not listening. They just did things their own way. They didn't care what Ezekiel and some of the other prophets were trying to speak. God will seek the lost and he will bring them home. He will bind up those who are hurt and strengthen those who are weak. He will destroy those who lead them astray and those who feast on what was meant for the people. So in other words, whatever God has planned for someone, these people, the priests and stuff, were taking it for themselves, using it for their own good and what they wanted. And so that's a warning for us even today, is to give to others what God says to give to others, and don't take that away from them. And it's just like don't give God your leftovers. We're supposed to give God the best of our lives. So the first of everything, the first of your time, your thoughts, your words, your actions, your money, everything. Give God the first of everything, not your leftovers. But the leaders were leading all these people astray, and they were causing them to get scattered. And God will send Jesus to be the shepherd. And I love that we always include Jesus in the Old Testament, because Jesus is the covenant of peace. And it says that God will take care of his sheep, the people of Israel. And that also includes you and I today. And then it also mentions that throughout the Old Testament too, that God is for us as well. And I always think that's so cool. And so then it goes on to talk about Edom, which is Esau, which is Jacob's older brother. And so it starts mentioning warnings of them, because they were actually rejoicing when Israel was taken captive, and they actually helped. And so God warns, what he's going to do to them, and he will deal with them according to, how you deal with others. And so I think that's always a warning as well. How you deal with others is how God will deal with you. That could be good or that could be bad. And God will make those who take from you, hurt you, rejoice in your pain. He will punish them and cause them to suffer. So here again, God's vengeance, leave that for the Lord to take care of. And when you come back to God, he will make you prosper and multiply. He will rebuild. He will make you be fruitful more than ever before. So when you decide to turn back to the Lord, then he will give restitution and help you, in your walk with him as you've come back. And God's people were profaning his name, so he sent them out away from the Lord. And then God will vindicate his holy name, his great name, so that the nations will know that he is God over all, which he says that repeatedly. And so, God will deal with those who are profaning his name and make sure that his name is vindicated. And God will, if you've strayed, God will bring you back. He will cleanse you of all unrighteousness. He will give you a new heart and a new spirit within you. He will remove that heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. How amazing is that? Glory. Yes. That's what we need. A new heart, a new spirit. And it's because of God's grace, not because of anything you or I have done to deserve his kindness, his grace, and his mercy that he will show to us. When we turn from our wicked ways and we come back to God, at his grace and his mercy that he will have for us. What a glorious God to give us another chance to come back to him. And God will bring the increase in our lives. And so we just surrender our lives to the Lord, repent of the evil, wicked ways we've been traveling, turn back to God, and allow him to give us a heart of flesh from our heart of stone, and to renew in us a new heart and a new spirit. Thank you for listening to Everyday Lessons in the Bible. I hope you have a blessed day. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel.